that comes into play. And I think somewhere a lot of GCC leaders that I have seen are still getting stuck in the traditional models of management. I've achieved this particular level, now I have a room, I have a cabin, I have an EA, not my job to get onto the floor anymore and things like those, right? That just doesn't work. Because you need to have that adaptive leadership, you need to have the curiosity, problem-solving ability, looking beyond what normally everybody else sees. So that's the fourth thing. And the last thing I'll say is, as we move into the next, let's say 4 to 5 years, contrary to popular belief, human skills are actually going to be more important. So if anybody here thinks that human skills are soft skills, I'm very confidently telling you that these soft skills are actually the hard skills. So make that pivot very quickly if you want to be successful over the next 5 years. So those were the 5 points that I think about.
Very, very well articulated, Gaurav, and thank you for calling that out. Especially the GCC game, even now, I think people are still talking about scale. Growth is scale, which is what needs to change, like you're saying, and leaders and the right leadership will probably bring that. I'm sure there are many GCCs who are having different conversations, but there are many others who need to get onto that bandwagon. So thank you for sharing that. Prakriti, the same question to you. Given, from your point of view, how does it look like? What do you look for in leadership, especially from a GCC point of view?
Right. So I'm going to build on the answer that you gave, and I'm going to catch this one word that you shared, Gaurav, which is platforms, right? GCCs of the future have to operate like platforms. When I say the word platform, what are the companies that come to your mind? Maybe Uber, maybe Swiggy, Airbnb, right? Why am I talking about platform companies in a GCC forum? It is because I believe that in future, GCCs have to start behaving like platforms and aggregators. Aggregators that bring together multiple players. And those players will be vendors and partners and data and technology and your customers and your talent, right? And for us to build a GCC of the future that operates like a platform that can scale immediately without really letting go of its innovation, you will need the soft skills that he spoke about right at the end. Leaders will have to learn to lead through influence. Leaders will need to let go of the decision making and delegate it down the layers. Ability to collaborate, leading with empathy, all those good old skills that we have learned about, those are going to be at the forefront if we want to be successful, let's say 5 years from now. I'm not discounting that AI is going to vanish or cybersecurity is not going to be important. Maybe that list of hard skills is also going to grow, right? 5 years, every year we are seeing a new technology coming in. So for people to evolve and for GCCs to not just be these hubs with large amount of headcount and becoming talent factories, you will have to learn the art of being an aggregator. Does Swiggy own any restaurants? No. Does Uber own any cabs? No. Then why is it that the GCC leaders are thinking of building everything in-house? Let's build platforms and aggregate innovators, startups, partners, AI agents, and humans. That's what I believe is going to be the future.
Again, a great point. Absolutely. I think that's the future. And the fact that we have so many ecosystem partners here, people here, it shows, how is the space growing and how is it impacting. So thank you for sharing that, Prakriti. I've already got a time check message, so we will kind of rush through. But of course, we want to hear Shankar and Santana. Yes, I'm trying to get the name right. So we did kind of, you heard a few key things. But, and I'll start with you, Shankar. What are the key factors that you think, and I know we've spoken about it, yet for you to articulate it, to say, what are the key factors that contribute according to you for the success of a GCC, right? Again, success can be defined different ways, yet there is a certain universal understanding on what success is. What would you say are the factors that lead to that?
Thanks, Vishnupriya. I hope you're all able to hear me and not getting the echoing sound. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for showing the thumbs up. Well, it's a good question. What actually separates a scalable and efficient and high flying, a high impact GIC, rather I move to the term GIC, more of GCC, GIC than with being an execution operation oriented GCC is it does not lie in any more of the headcount game or the number of engineers what you put in through. It is more of the value what you generate, right? So scaling is not about headcount in 2026. It's more about the value what you create and give the business outcomes. So I think it's more on the 4 building blocks, which I think is laid out. One of the first one is GIC or the GCC's mission has to move from being an execution to a business ownership. GCCs have to move from a task ownership to a project ownership to a product ownership to business outcomes. The KRAs should change to have a business revenue realization. What's the revenue influence which you are bringing in to the parent, to the parent organizations? What is that which you are bringing? What is that the GIC or the GCC is bringing in terms of the revenues, the products, what are the velocities of the product releases, and so on and so forth, right? So the business outcomes really is what is the key KRA which matters. The second, which I think is the business domain and the proximity of the customers. The leaders need to understand that there's a business where you are in. There is India, there's a customer demands of the India, there's a segment of market in India too. So what is that which needs to cater to those markets? The business domain, the proximity also matters. The third, talking about Prakriti and also about what Anita was saying earlier, right? There should be a shift in the change of the leadership circle, right? There should be a strategic leadership circle which needs to change. Leadership at GCCs are not about taking the decisions and implementing, being a passive interpreter of those decisions from the headquarters, right? So GCC, what needs is, it needs to promote aggressive and, assertive and promoting the global business decisions right from the place where the GCCs are located. So it is more of how we are going to show the business outcomes, how we are going to bring in the new local leaders and things like that. So all this can be done only by when you inculcate the deep business domains of the GCCs and then inculcating the local leaders to come into that business and global positions is what will help out. And last but not the least, technology is at the forefront. We should all leverage. So any discussion does not leave out AI and digitization. So AI should be used as a technology catalyst. Even our PM Modi said very recently in Europe's Viva Tech that India, even though has a large talent pool of people available, but India should become the hub for innovation. We should be in forefront of leading out what are the innovations, what's the next best innovation to come out across, right? So there should be a KRA on measuring innovation. Innovation velocity is something what GCC should also look into. So I would build around these 4 blocks, if I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Great points, but I'll keep my words lesser. Over to you. Same question, and if you can, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think largely Shankar has covered, but I have some things to add for sure. So to me, success is actually, first is sustainability, like they need to stay. I mean, it has to stay and it should not be bought out. Second is, obviously, it has to become an enterprise nerve center. That is where, as Shankar said, they have to directly impact the P&L. That's how the GCC can actually survive. So that is the point about success. But what is that, how it can be done and what are the building blocks around it? See, basically, I mean, you would agree, GCC start with great office, 1 year is actually honeymoon, very nice, superb, everything is great, people are happy, hiring is happening superb. But what happens is there is the need for something I would like to anchor here, which is about the people and culture. And that is something, every leader has to, start off, because culture starts with the leader. And then it has to be inculcated there. So if it has to become an innovation center, there has to be a culture of, experimenting, fail fast, and things like that has to be accordingly designed. So from day 0, the culture has to be embedded, because it's beyond the technology, beyond the processes, beyond the governance. This is the actual heart of it. This is the actual sky of it. That is how it can sustain longer. That's the people and culture aspect, but that again connects to the leadership. At last, it connects back to what Shankar said. If we don't become relevant to the business, if we don't contribute to the P&L, then we are not doing anything. We will not be able to sustain. So it cannot be. It has to contribute to the business directly, and it has to slowly evade from the identity of the GCC or things like that. It has to become the value center where it directly contributes, and it has to become one another office in the globe, instead of having an identity, right? So that's pretty much it. And last thing is, in order to sustain, the new thing which is actually coming, I'm sure Vishnupriya is also having in the advisory the last slide for the GCCs about the ecosystem connection. So that's something actually evolving from pretty much last year. This is actually coming through in all the conferences, the conversation and the narratives are actually happening, where ecosystem connection is very important. The cities are chosen based on the ecosystem. How much the city is actually giving, the ecosystem, city is actually identified based on the ecosystem. The academia, the research institutions, the startups, because the use cases can be solved by anybody today, and the GCCs are actually open to actually go and explore from the startups, because startups are agile, they are fast, they can get solved things very faster and more productivity and more impact to the business. I think that those are the building blocks for the success and sustenance of the GCCs.
You've summed it up really well. Maybe just one last question, and we've not touched upon resilience while it came out through all your responses. But if you were to think about, especially from a people culture perspective, and Prakriti, we can start with you, and a very quick response if you can give us to that, right? Building resilience is a collective, is what I think, right? It has to be embedded in the culture. How do you go about doing that in an organization? And they're large scale GCCs we're also talking about, right? So how do you do that, right? Resilience,
Yeah, see, resilience means that you should sustain, you should not die 5 years from now, right? And that would require you to generate enough ideas. If you can build in your organizations a culture where ideation is celebrated, where it's okay to fail fast, right? None of these ideas are new. We saw some of the tech giants adopt it. But GCCs, when they were born largely as KPOs. I mean, we were too busy automating some processes or taking some work and taking pride in operational excellence. But if we have to be resilient and survive in the longer run, we have to copy-paste these ideas from the Googles and the Amazons of the world, where we bring together teams, let them innovate, let them fail fast, and celebrate some of that failure. Because then these ideas would take us to the next level. The second question I ask GCC leaders is, how much time every week do they spend meeting startups, picking up a new idea, learning what's happening out there? Or are they just too busy meeting their global customers and trying to vouch for more work? This strategy that brought us in the first phase is not going to help us succeed in the second phase, because we have to look for new ways and smarter ways of delivering the same thing.
Anita, your response to that?
Yeah, so I think most of it is covered, but for me, resilience is not about locational resilience. It's not about headquarter giving us a mandate and, we are just simply following that. So COVID has taught us that we can work from anywhere. And if you see our India ecosystem, the GCC, we are primarily distributed in 6 cities, right? So are we saying that we are limited to that? I don't think so. From the culture standpoint, you covered it beautifully, talking about how we can build the mindset. But what AI has got us is, there is a lot of repetitive work that AI can do, okay? So, and agents will be there. But are we equipping our people enough to have a mindset to talk about decision making, being bold? Failing fast, absolutely required, but are we failing forward? Are we looking at things from a domain lens or a business outcome lens? I think that is something that we need to build, at least from the GCC ecosystem in India. Historically, we have, been very shy in saying no. We have not built, even in our academia, we always say that, yes, we are the good girls and good boys. We want to come first. We want to do the right thing. But are we questioning is the question. When we get a seat on the table, Are we asking the right questions? Are we saying this can be done, but this is another way of doing it? Are we putting our thoughts around? I think that is something which is very important. Yeah.
So, Vishnupriya, just a 30-second plug-in. So, I think two things for creating resilience at scale. Number one, resilience should not be seen as a recovery plan, but it needs to be a design principle. Number two is we also need to embed resilience with employee experience. Because when you do these two things, you can actually scale it up. Otherwise, it ends up being a plan on paper. What if floods happen, this happened, that, it never gets scaled up and it doesn't become everybody's responsibility. So design rather than a recovery plan and combine it with employee experience.
Thank you. That sounds like really what possible to do, though it's a Herculean task to get there, but we have to start, and I think that makes sense. For you, Shankar, quickly from...
Thank you. Like Gaurav was mentioning, resilience is not just about business continuity. For me, it's beyond that, right? So resilience is for you to able create and keep on creating value to the organization in spite of different challenging environments, whether business environments or geopolitical environments, whatever that could be. GCC's resilience depends for me. If I could, I like to bottle it up usually. So if I could box it up, it should be a resilience in terms of technology, in terms of people, talent, in terms of business resilience, in terms of the culture resilience as well, right? So all this has to be embedded in. In fact, I also like to have a point that GCC should go a step forward, have a KRA to see how resilient they are. They should have something called as a value realization. It shows how fast and swift you can respond in kind of a strategic pivots, how fast and well you are equipped to do a response to it. So it's not just about business continuity. It's and GCCs in India are much more ably poised, and they all have a kind of they are the horizontals of their parent organization. They do everything what the parent organization does. So the business is, the knowledge is higher here. So how you realize beyond a business continuity is what is to be built. So remember business resilience, culture resilience, people resilience, and talent. Thank you.
Very well put. Over to you, Sandra.
Said it actually, so yeah, thank you. No, I think Shankar said it and all others also said it very simply. Business resilience, culture resilience, leadership resilience, talent resilience, and then you're talking about capability resilience, and last is actually ecosystem resilience. All of them, I think, pretty much summarized, so I don't need to explain about that. But very importantly, the talent also, it has to be futuristic as well. Like we need to build the capability for the next, we are talking about 2030 and stuff like that. So we need to build the talent accordingly. Culture also accordingly, like psychologically safe, and trust has to be built, more humanized. Technology-wise, technology resilience, more AI and more forward-looking. And last is the ecosystem resilience. We need to build and connect around it. So it should not be a silo. It has to connect inter-GCC and also with the ecosystem around. I think that's how we can be resilient.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your insights. And with leaders like these, we do see a good future of the GCCs, and we are very, very excited to hear all the insights, and I'm sure each one of you is doing that in your organizations. So we're sure we are building a good future. Thank you for sparing time, and thank you to the audience for listening in. Can we have a